Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Good, and joining me this week is an incredibly special guest, my friend Steve from Plus One Player. Steve, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. It's so good to see you and actually talk to you because these past few months have been just the worst. Yeah. So it's good to actually sit with you and we can talk about some things that'll make us happy, which is what we all kind of need these days.
That is the hope. And ever since I kind of shifted the show to being more of bring a person on, have them talk about their favorite thing, I've always found it to be so kind of inspiring or just kind of hopeful, because I'm not bringing someone on to be tell me about the thing you hate the most. It's more tell me your favorite movie of all time and why you love it so much, and maybe why I can appreciate it more because of that. But anyway, Steve, you're no stranger to kind of making shows and stuff, and Steve and I have we've worked in the past on a ton of different things, and it's always a pleasure. So when you said that you're hey man, if you ever want to talk Terminator and stuff, I'm dude, gives me a reason to go check this stuff out.
Yeah, for sure, because I saw you doing this awesome series. Obviously I saw you with Manny doing the Lord of the Rings. Hello, Manny. Yeah. And so I was dude, because I figured you would probably have seen Terminator, or at least one of the movies at some point. So I was hey, if you're ever interested in doing one of these, let me know. Because this is the first two movies, Terminator 1 and 2, are two of my favorite movies of all time. And this truly is one of the things I was put on earth to do, is just talk about Terminator 1 and 2. So I'm very excited. When you shot me that Discord message, I was let's do it. Yeah. As soon as you want me, I'm there.
I appreciate it so much. And like Steve was kind of alluding to beforehand there, we're talking about Terminator 1 today, and I have a feeling it's going to go pretty well. So I think we should probably come back and do the sequel. But we probably won't go and do all of them unless people really want, they're you got to do 3 and Salvation and Genesis and Dark Fate. It'd be be a lot of Terminator.
I still need to see Dark Fate. That's on my list. I'm going to watch Dark Fate. I would say it's probably not worth it for Salvation and Genesis. Maybe 3. 3's okay. It's definitely more of a comedic one. But 2, definitely. 2 is amazing. 2 is a masterpiece.
I'll say this. 2. I watched the very tail end of Dark Fate on a flight back before the virus and stuff, because I was oh, it's Dark Fate. And I was oh, I remember seeing the trailers and thinking that looked kind of cool. And I was I'm just going to kind of skip it to the end. And I feel bad because I feel I still knew the kind of the through line of the film, though it was the last 10 minutes. I was yeah, I get it. But hey, man, Linda Hamilton, she's back. And honestly, she's looking great, man. Somebody
Linda
said
Hamilton rocks. Yeah, that's why I still need to see that one, because when I saw that it was bringing the band back together, except Edward Furlong, but bringing the band back together, I was excited for that because obviously Linda Hamilton, Sarah Connor, she's iconic.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she's so cool. And somebody on another podcast I love called The Weekly Planet, you guys should check them out. They're so good. He said, they said, oh, it looks like Sarah Connor, all she's been doing since kind of the earlier films is just smoking cigarettes and doing chin-ups or something like that. She looks like she comes out with the big gun and the grenade launcher in Dark Fate, and you're wow, Sarah, dang, you're looking scary.
That's accurate, because that's what she was doing a lot of in the second one. So
okay,
makes sense.
Okay, good. See, I'll get that joke is funnier now. It'll be funnier after I watch T2. Anyway, so like I said at the top, we're talking about Terminator, or just called The Terminator today, the one back from, I believe, 1984.
Yes.
I might be wrong about that. It was present day, and then it said 1984. And I was I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But for anyone who hasn't seen this film before, Steve, do you have a brief summary to tell them what the Terminator is?
So a brief summary of the Terminator is in the future, there's a nuclear apocalypse because Skynet, Cyberdyne Systems, the AI in this universe, becomes self-aware, and they basically launch nukes at America's biggest enemies, which in turn gets the enemies to launch nukes at us, causing a nuclear apocalypse. And so the machines are basically trying to exterminate all of the human race, except one man, John Connor. He starts fighting back and leading a resistance. And so what happens is the enemies, the Terminators, the Skynet, what they do is they make these infiltrators called Terminators, and they make these robots disguised as human with actual living flesh on the outside of a titanium endoskeleton. So they get those people to infiltrate and kill all the humans. And so what they actually did is send one back in time to try to kill Sarah Connor before she has John Connor. And the Resistance sends a human back, Kyle Reese, to protect Sarah, so that way John can be born and lead the Resistance in the future. So right there, you got so much going on.
Yeah, and I think I was trying to do this to myself while I was watching this last night because I get the gist of that, and I was trying to see it through the eyes of like the new audience because it's like 1984, two naked men show up because when you time travel, you can't have any things on you, apparently, maybe.
Maybe dead things on you.
Yeah, whatever. I know it sounds strange, but it has to be like living tissue. And then it's like two naked men who show up in Los Angeles, and they're both trying to hunt Sarah down. And from kind of interactions they both have with people who are just like civilians or police or whatever else, you kind of get a feeling for like which one of them's okay and which one of them might be horrible. And without having that information, I think it is a little more interesting to be like, okay, one of the like that guy, like he really messes up these thugs up at like the Griffith Observatory, which it's Bill Paxton, I believe, like a young Bill Paxton with like spiky blue hair is one of these like guys who's just like telling like a naked Arnold Schwarzenegger to, you know, buzz off. But
I'm pretty sure he's the one that gets his like heart ripped out of his chest by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, one of the there's like three of them, and I know one of them just gets just decimated. I'm like, oh, that's pretty fun. But just trying to keep that in mind because I was like, I had so much information just kind of like surrounding it, so I knew kind of the gist of it going in. But I still thought that was kind of an interesting premise. And man, obviously this film, and I get this out of the way at first, obviously it came out in the 80s, so it looks a little dated, and there's nothing you can really do about that. Like, it's the 80s, the style, like all this, even the special effects to some degree. But I still think, for the most part, as a lot of people call it, this is like kind of like Alien in the sense that it's like it's a horror film set with like a very specialized antagonist and kind of just, you know, in a weird setting where the villain is out and about as opposed to most like slasher films where it's like they're kind of, you know, isolated in a cabin or something like that. It's like, no, he's just like walking through downtown Los Angeles and he's like, I'm gonna find every Sarah Connor in the phone book and just kill him one at a time. Which is like such a great, like, just a robot. He's like, all right, there's one. I really wanted, because they're like going to phone books in the beginning, Kyle and the Terminator each. I really wanted the Terminator, to go to the same, just randomly the same phone booth that Kyle went to, and that page was torn out by Kyle Reese. And I would have loved it if he was like, there aren't any Sarah Connors here. Like look around and be like, what do I do?
Foiled.
Yeah, foiled. I was foiled. But okay, so this is your favorite, like one of your favorite films of all time. I think you said Terminator 2 might be your favorite, but this one's still...
Terminator 2 is absolutely my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, is Terminator like right in silver, or is it...
It's not in silver, but Terminator's up there. It's like, obviously, like what Terminator does is, because when this first came out, not a lot of people expected it to be what it was. I was actually watching on Hulu, you can find it on YouTube as well, but GQ does these series where they'll interview actors and just have them talk about some of their iconic roles. So they're interviewing Arnold Schwarzenegger, and of course he's talking about Terminator. And he was saying, you know, when we were first doing this, like the year before this movie, the X-Terminator came out. So like this movie, the Terminator, like people are like, oh, you got the X-Terminator, you got the Terminator. He's like, we really didn't think much of it. And he's like, once we finished shooting though, and James Cameron showed me like the first like 30 minutes, he's like, we have something massive here.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the best things about this, is because it does kind of defy your expectations, because it seems like this just generic sci-fi movie, but it really is a horror movie for at least the first hour. And then, because the first 50 minutes, you can't catch your breath. It's basically nonstop until Kyle and Sarah get to the bridge, where they kind of sleep under the bridge for the night.
Yeah.
Because up until then, you're kind of tense because you're watching Arnold kind of go through and start interacting with people. I love how robotic he is with everything that he does, when he's just repeating back what people say. When he goes to the gun shop and he's just got some amazing knowledge, and he literally asks for like photon lasers, and the guy's like, just what you see here, man.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so he's just absolutely ruthless. And another thing the film does amazingly is it portrays so much violence without showing so much of it.
Yes.
Like, you'll see him shoot people off camera. There's very little like blood and gore like throughout the entire movie. So I think that it just kind of added to that mystery, and that, you know, how gruesome is, because you'll hear like 6 gunshots and he'll just blast somebody. So it's like, this guy he's ruthless. And then when you have Kyle give that whole speech where he's like, there's no bargaining with him, there's no reasoning with him, they feel no remorse. And so you kind of couple that with how he just tears through every time, knocks on a door, Sarah Connor, yes, and he just barges in and blasts them 7 times. And so like all of these elements just add into this roller coaster of a ride because you're on the edge of your seat. Even watching it again last night for the first time, I've seen it so many times, but this is the first time I've watched it in a few years, from start to finish. And again, I was just right back to where I was the first time I saw it, just right on the edge of my seat, like just having those moments like, oh shit, like I can't believe that just happened. And everything from it, because like you said, yeah, there's those cheesy like 80s moments, but I feel like that just adds to it. And I think this obviously is one of the things, this and Conan, but Terminator, I think a little bit more ends up putting Arnold on the map as being like who he is. And he has so few words. I think that's amazing. He plays this so well, just being a robot.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And you kind of mentioned it before, but I looked this up. It was on a budget of $6.5 million. And I think, if I'm not completely mistaken, finding out that it actually ended up making $78.48 million. So
yeah, it did pretty well.
That's pretty well. That's pretty good. As far as, again, now remember, like a lot of people nowadays, they're like, that doesn't seem like much. But if you're able to take any movie and make more than 10 times the budget,
oh my god,
seems pretty good. Let's see, and this is 1980s dollars, so obviously it's going to be a little different. But still, I was like, oh, that's really. I wanted to know what the budget was for this, because now when we think of the Terminator, we think about as a saga, a franchise, something that they pour a lot of money into. But this was the first one, and not every movie is going to have like a Star Wars start with like a New Hope, where they're going to be like, all right, we're gonna put a lot of money into this. A lot of people are like, yeah, we believe in this. It's just like, nope, this is what we're doing, and we're doing something set in the modern age at that time, but then also like 30 years in the future or more.
Oh,
I should
yeah.
say, like 40 years in the future or more. They do shoot back to that a few times, which I appreciated. Those moments felt the most Starship Troopery to me, when there was like the future and like had like the helmets and stuff, and they're fighting like all the lasers and stuff. There's kind of like the big kind of the hunter killers going by, and
yeah,
I was like, oh, this is interesting. But they still have like kind of crummy cars in the future, because like if you're the Resistance, you're not going to have like sleek, cool cars.
No, yeah, you gotta be incognito.
You gotta be incognito, and I like that in this movie too. Like, I gotta give it credit. Like, there is so much practical stuff in this movie. Like, so much practical stuff, and that is something that I think the 80s. Not all the movies in the 80s did this super well, but like a lot of them tried to do, because we were still like getting to that point where we're kind of realizing the technology. And there's so much in it where there's like car chases and they're real cars slamming into each other like all the time. Like every car is a boat, though. These are the old 80s, like every car you just slamming into each other. And I don't know. I really appreciate that. I think it adds a lot more to it, and it kind of makes it more tangible, as opposed to some of the ones nowadays where they look so cool, but then you get this kind of like rubbery effect where they don't feel as realistic as like an actual prop, like the actual Terminator does, where you're like, whoa, okay, like this thing. And unlike most villains in these horror movies, instead of like doing the fake out death once, spoilers by the way for all this, he does the fake out death twice.
He sure does.
You're like, we got him, and they're like, nope, we got him. Nope. It's like we got him.
Now we got him. Now we got electricity going off. It's official. We got him.
Yeah.
We got him, guys.
We got it. Yeah.
Now, because I think that it was a combination where it probably didn't have the biggest budget, and like that goes back to what I was saying, where it shows a lot. It does a lot of things off screen, so it doesn't have to show certain special effects. I think they do that as a way to build tension, but also, adding to that mystery, but also cut corners on the cost.
Yeah.
But I love how the car chases were like real car chases, where he's riding the motorcycle, he's chucking the pipe bombs at him, and when in the early part where they he's in the cop car, Arnold, and Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor are just in that beater of a boat, and they're chasing each other, and then they get into the parking garage, and he's like slowly trying to like hotwire it, and Arnold pulls up like right behind him, like that. Oh my god, the tension that they build throughout the first 50 minutes is amazing, because you really think he's going to get to him and the movie's just going to end. It's truly incredible how they made it basically like, all right, this guy who clearly, Kyle Reese, like he mentions it a few times in the movies, like he clearly felt some effects of traveling through time. So like this guy is obviously like having the hard part of actually having to deal with human beings. Like when he gets arrested and he's like, great, so now I have to explain to these people I'm from the future. So like nobody is going to understand or relate to this guy. He has the most unenviable task, and then he has to convince this woman that he's from the future, sent by her son who doesn't exist, and he's here to save her. And so just like that juxtaposition of this merciless killer with this very human individual trying to, save Sarah, who becomes this like amazing, like I do feel bad for her because in the second one you see all the effects of what happens in the first one. But like in this first one, she just takes everything in stride because she's literally a waitress at some just small town diner. And all of a sudden she's like, great, this guy's going to kill every Sarah Connor until he gets to me. And now that he knows who I am, what am I supposed to do? I have no idea how to shoot a gun. I have no idea how to make a pipe bomb. So like all these like little elements just build up to this such fun, thrilling ride. And you're so tense up until the last minute when she presses that button.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. And I want to talk about Kyle Reese because I think you're right. He does a lot in this movie. And it's funny because the first part of it, there's not a lot of dialogue. And then I feel like they were like, we have to get a lot of information to the audience. Like, how are we going to do that? And it's like, well, he's going to get arrested and then he'll kind of just share all of that information there. And like, they'll just kind of think it's a joke. Like all the police will be like, come on, dude. Like, oh yeah, why? Oh, you've got living tissue. Oh, that's really interesting. Like that kind of stuff. The one thing that bothered, I only have two major gripes with this, Steve, and I'm getting past most of the effect stuff because that's like obviously can't do anything. Kyle, I don't know if I buy the relationship between them because he is like, it moves really quickly, but also it is like he's hyper aggressive towards her, and also he's got like, it's weird. His son like kind of forced him to be his own dad.
Oh yeah,
he's like, you're gonna be obsessed with this.
It's totally fucking weird.
Yeah,
it's totally weird. I'm not saying it's not weird. It's completely out there. It's an insane concept. But like I know like it is very aggressive. They're literally only together for like one night. They hang out together for maybe 12 hours.
Yeah, he like abducts her.
That's the extent of their relationship. But he tries to go into by basically saying, everything that John's told me about you, blah, blah, blah. So I fell in love with you. And so, I mean, you're going to have to try to like close some of these gaping potholes when you're dealing with this outrageous time travel future plot line. So I agree with you that relationship is probably the most unrealistic aspect of this because like, obviously we're talking about time travel and killer robots.
Yeah.
But we see what Boston Dynamics is making with these robot dogs. So I don't think killer robots are far off, to be quite honest.
Yeah, not too far
However, I do think that relationship was a tad rushed.
Yeah, well, like I wish, in some ways, I think it's more of like the chemistry. They can't really have it there because they kind of make Kyle to be like this crazed soldier from the future. And finally, when they get a minute to breathe, she's kind of like asking him like, oh, there's no like, special lady in his life or in your life. And he's like, no, I'm all alone. I've always been all alone. He's like, except for you. And I was like, I'd be like right there. I'd be like, Sarah, run. Like, because like right there, she doesn't know, like she wouldn't know she's trapped with a man in a motel who's like, I know there's a guy who's trying to kill you and you've never known me before, but just trust me. And like the way he kind of holds her early on, like to like force her to stay, I'm like, dude, like, like it's a little much. But I get that he's like, there was no good way to approach her, I guess. Like if he showed up at work and said like, hey, no big deal, I'm from the future and I came to save you. Like,
yeah, literally wearing a homeless guy's pants and a stolen jacket off like the clearance rack.
Yeah, but I do like how they're both introduced that way, where you don't have to necessarily know the backstories of Terminator and Kyle, where it's like establishes that when he like goes to that first cop, Kyle gets him, which the police just like show up in an alley and find Kyle like just randomly, and Kyle gets to one of the cops. He's like, "What year is it?" And the cop's like, what are you talking about, dude?" As opposed to like Terminator, who would just like look at him and just be like, boom. Because I was wondering. Back to the shop owner for the guns, I was like, oh, he's gonna be nice to this gun shop owner, and he starts like loading a shell, and the shop owner's like, you can't do that, and he's like, boom, he's like, I'm a Terminator, I don't really care.
And also like that shop owner, maybe just don't have an open box of shotgun shells on the counter. How about that?
He's like,
maybe have those sealed.
Yeah, maybe it's just like, and everybody else seemed to like when she goes to the nightclub later, there's kind of like that protective barrier between her and like the person taking tickets and stuff. But I was like, the gun owner is like, here's a gun, here's another gun. You want some shells? Don't put them in there though.
I know,
It's like
the door woman at the club had more security than the gun owner.
Yeah,
but again, maybe all the good guns were gonna shoot him first. Anyway.
Exactly. And that's, I get it. Like the movie has to kind of keep progressing to that degree, but I thought that was kind of like an interesting, facet of it, where it was this kind of like where you start playing with time travel in movies, and every movie kind of has their own rules about it. And I thought it was an interesting kind of like through line to be like, well,
Yeah.
John basically like made his own father become his own father so he could exist. I just wanted there to be like more of a, and there maybe wasn't enough time for it, but it just didn't seem like they had a lot of chemistry at all. He just kind of looked like he was kind of a psycho who finally caught up with the lady he loves, and he was like, yeah, your husband, I never found out the dad of, he probably died, and she's like, I don't want to know about it. And I was like, dude, that's you, bro.
Yeah,
I was like, ew.
it's one of those just like weird story elements, but I mean, James Cameron's kind of a weird guy too. Like, he makes great movies. He's a great filmmaker, but he is kind of a weird guy here and there. So, like, yeah, you're gonna see like Avatar is kind of fucking weird. So,
oh, dude,
you're gonna see some weird things.
Don't even, oh my gosh, Avatar, crazy. Which again, James Cameron, a prolific icon.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal filmmaker.
I would love to be in your movies, Mr. Cameron, but there's a lot going on there. The only other thing that did bother me was the Michael Myers-esque face jumps between when they were trying to do like the fictional like Terminator head, and he like kind of cuts out the eye thing.
When he's fixing his eye. That's a sign of the times.
It's a sign of the times. But they do it a few other times later when he's like driving the truck or something else.
No. So what that is, because in the beginning of the movie, he's got like the long flowing hair.
Yes.
But when he gets caught on fire in like the first time he gets caught on fire, you notice his eyebrows and his hair gets singed.
Yes.
So that's what that is. Like, they changed that because it shows that he got caught on fire and lost his like facial hair, and then his hair got singed.
Oh yeah.
Because he does that a lot. You know, when Sarah bites Kyle Reese in the hand in the car, for like the rest of the movie, you can see the bite mark on his hand.
Yeah, she's got like blood on her teeth or whatever.
Yeah, I gotta give him credit. He does, because that's one of those James Cameron things where like he's really good at just maintaining all that continuity. And I do like those little things where you start to see the Terminator start to like get peeled away. Like, I just like that because it happens again in the second one in different ways. The second one, the special effects are far superior, but for this one, I love those scenes where all of a sudden you start to see him changing, and then of course, like that scene where he is fixing his eye is hilarious because it's just so obvious. And then when it cuts to actual Arnold, you can see he's trying so hard to make that same face, but it just looks actually like a human face. The other one looks so rubbery.
Yeah, well, and I feel like there's a reaction shot later on, maybe when he's driving the truck or something, where they show that face again, and that's what I'm kind of going off more, because I get the whole like lost the hair because of the fire thing, but I was like, oh, I get that they're like, we gotta choose this thing again, and it has to kind of look and then like eventually they kind of ditch all that for the stop motion, and then eventually they just like have the prop of like the chest up, and it's like they just kind of like, they're like, keep the camera up, do a close shot on him, let's not do any more legs. Like, if you're gonna show legs, show him like dragging a foot, and they're like, just he's coming. Which that part I thought is where it got like to the best stuff, because I was worried it was gonna be that kind of stop action Terminator for the rest of the movie, and I was like, but then when they finally got to just using that prop or whatever, I was like, okay, that's pretty freaky. I was like, here we go, that's good. He's very slow, but that is a sign of just any good horror movie character. He's very slow. He just is unstoppable. He just keeps showing up, and he gets some, I gotta say, I know the action is probably gonna be better in T2. There's some still really good stuff in here. Like, he's got like the revolver, the shotgun, and the assault rifle, and the Uzi. And he just like rolls in, like the "I'll be back" thing obviously is in there, which is, I think it fits perfectly.
Oh, the "I'll be back" thing. Yeah. So funny thing about that, in that same interview with Arnold, he was talking about the "I'll be back" line, and he said that when he read that, he went to James Cameron and he was like, "This doesn't sound right. Like, he's robotic. Shouldn't it be 'I will be back'?" And James Cameron was just like, "No, it's 'I'll be back.' Just say the line." And it's just like, because he's basically like, I know what's going to make a tagline. I know what's going to sell a movie.
Sure.
And it became the most popular line.
Yeah. Well, and like, props to Arnold, because a lot of people kind of will give him and they'll be like, oh man, he's not doing a good performance. He's doing the best, like, I'm a jacked out of my mind robot man.
Yeah.
And he also looks, the shape of him is the shape of all the men in Batman the Animated Series. He's a triangle that comes down to like this tiny waist, and he's just like, when you first see him show up, you're like, oh my gosh, because I've seen him like that but CG'd in like future movies, but this was like original recipe, like Mr. Universe, like, dude, exactly. Like, guys, like, it's kind of ridiculous. You're like, whoa, but like it's like, so it's him. And that
was why he got the Conan job, just because he was literally the biggest guy. They're like, we need a giant dude, and you're it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, power to him. But he plays it well. Like he's just walking around. He'll just walk with his guns up. He'll just walk down a hallway. And I was joking with somebody recently, or they're talking on Twitter about it. They said one of the moments they love the most is where Arnold, Terminator shows up, grabs a guy off the phone booth and like starts using it. And the guy's like, you got a serious attitude problem.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was such a video game moment. Or he's walking down his apartment hallway near the end and he like knocks into this dude and the dude kind of looks at him. He's like, damn. Like, that's all it is. And it's like these little cheesy, kind of funny, corny moments, intentional or not intentional, but I think he plays it super well, especially when he's like rolling into the police station and he's just like, it doesn't matter who he sees, like all the people you've grown to like, which I like the police chief and like some of those dudes, I'm like, they seem like decent dudes, and then it doesn't matter because they just
that was
down.
such an ominous foreshadowing line when he's just like, you got 30 cops in here.
Yep.
Yeah, all right, well, they're all gonna die.
Yeah, it's like every one of them is dead. I was like, that's anytime you get a movie like that where there's some sort of power character, I'm like, oh, so we're just gonna watch all these people perish.
Yeah, Dr. Silverman was lucky that he escaped just before, like right as Arnold's coming into the police station. Dr. Silverman leaves because he comes back in the second one. He has a small part in the third one too. He's a little bit of a recurring character.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But Dr. Silverman sucks. He's such a jackass.
Yeah, and like his whole thing is, I'm gonna base my career off this guy. He's like, because this guy could like his methods or his kind of the way he's talking about things are so airtight that kind of explain away everything. And I just love that guy is just like, he's not a good dude. You know what I mean? Like, he's just kind of like, he's like, look at this crazy dude. And I'm going to like, this guy's going to help me boost my career. But he's the only one who gets away from the police station. And you're like, besides obviously Kyle and Sarah, but you're like the one kind of sleazy, the super sleazy dude at the station gets away. And like, ugh.
And he'll just be even more awful in the second one, so you have that to look forward to.
Excellent. I just
he's terrible.
I can't wait for that. That'll be good. But yeah, they did a lot with what they had. I gotta be honest. Like at the beginning when I saw Stan Winston's name pop up, I was like, whoa, Stan! I forgot this was one of your things. Stan Winston, legendary kind of prop guy in the business, and I was like, oh whoa, Stan's in on this. And this is, I like to kind of put it like movies in perspective. So Alien came out, I think it was 79, this was 84, and so that's like a 7-year jump, and then 7 years later was Jurassic Park. So like you can see, like if you could watch those movies kind of back to back, you can kind of see how like things are moving. Or maybe even T2, which was T2 like what?
T2 was 91, I believe.
Really? Okay, so they took a while to make T2. Either way, that's a little ways off. I'm surprised.
Yeah, so July 3rd, 1991. So that's the thing, too, is the T2, they didn't even expect this to ever get a sequel.
Sure.
So I saw Gary Whitta. He had tweeted out, this was a while back, because it must have been the anniversary of when the Terminator 2 teaser trailer got dropped. And he's like, I remember seeing this in the theater, and we were all stunned because no one knew that this was coming. So, like, I think that 7-year wait was actually really helpful. And because if you watch Terminator 1 and then just go watch Terminator 2 back to back, the jump in special effects is mind-blowing.
Yeah. Well, and also it seems like with this sort of thing, and James Cameron's no stranger to this too, like he obviously likes the special effects, but there's so much, again, the realism behind most all of it. And because they couldn't have the same technology we have today, kind of forced them to do things a little more in a tangible way. And there's just something, I don't know, it seems a little more timeless to me, because when you see like
you'll see some amazing chases in the second one.
Yeah.
If you thought the car chases were good in the first one, the second one's amazing. Oh
sure.
My God.
Yeah. It's just like, and that stuff, it'll hold up better over time. And like if you're using like the prop Terminator and it's like crawling after Sarah, that's gonna hold up way better than any CGI one is, because
I love that scene.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's freaky, and like what's happening because they set it up really well, where you're like, okay, early on they kind of show like in that factory at the end, they're like, okay, this is like they accidentally hit that button, and you can kind of see like it would like squish things, and you're like, all right, she kind of like either by luck or by like her own little design, where she was kind of like, oh, I should just kind of do this. But I do like that. And at the end of this movie, she kind of forcibly becomes Sarah Connor that we know. Like she's like, Kyle, get up, and she's like, stand up, soldier. Like, she's like, come on, get up, I need you. And then like later on, she's just like, I'm gonna start killing things now too. I can't keep running forever. I need to. It's finally her accepting that she can't just outrun this problem. And I really enjoy that. And I like too that it sets up for a sequel pretty well, but I do like that they kind of like they tie it back in with the picture. And she's kind of going off into Mexico. I'm sure there's a reason for that. But she's like writing, or she's recording all these little tapes for John. And it almost seems like, you know, she kind of has to tell John that Kyle's his father. So that way John makes sure that Kyle gets the pictures. That way Kyle kind of falls in love with Sarah. Like there's this kind of like round robin, like, I got to do this thing to do this thing to do this thing. So I'll do this thing. So you do this thing. And I think it works out pretty well, all things considered. You know, again, time travel, you can get a little messy in movies, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And like honestly, watching this in a post Avengers Endgame world where they basically just shit all over every other form of time travel.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, I guess I have to just take this with a grain of salt. But I still always, man, there's something about just the idea of they can be sent back, but they can't go forward. You know, it's literally like you got to go do this. Like there's no coming back. So we're sending you out there. And whether you succeed or you fail, the only way we'll know here in the future is if all of a sudden we cease to exist, I guess.
Yeah, totally. And I like that Terminator, like, it does kind of set up potentially a sequel, but it also is kind of self-contained in that way, where Kyle's like, I'm the only one who came back, and he's the only one who came back. He's like, it's just me versus him. And I like that because it kind of says, like, all right, we cut this off, even though for some odd reason Skynet only had access to only a little bit of time travel technology for a bit or whatever. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But I like that it kind of says, like, all right, this is the story. And if Sarah Connor goes off into the distance at the end, then John Connor will be born, and then they'll have a resistance. And if you want them to win in that resistance in your mind, great. And if not, that's okay too. I think that's okay. I think that's cool to have it a little open ended. Yeah,
because it definitely was just a one-off. I don't think he had ever envisioned of actually doing the sequel. So I think they shoot it in that sense where I think you're supposed to believe at the end that future just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to believe that, okay, if he survives, that this maybe makes it so we don't have to deal with, the robots taking over. The second one builds on that even more to basically them trying to just prevent that from happening altogether.
Okay.
And so you could tell that this one was supposed to be self-contained, where it's like, this is just going to be a one-off thing. Because like we said earlier, they really didn't know what was going to happen with this. There wasn't, a lot of clamoring for this type of movie at the time. And so it's because of how well it did, where they're like, ooh, we could probably do this again. And naturally, James Cameron loves to see what there are, like in terms of technological advancements. Because like you said, that guy loves the special effects.
Yeah.
And he does it, honestly, probably better than just about anybody else, or just as good as anybody else in the industry. So you could kind of see him kind of take that, I guess, that golden ring. It's like, let's see what we can do with a sequel. And honestly, like I'll gush all about that when we do the episode for the second one. But I thought this first one was just such like a perfect one-off movie. Like it's kind of like The Last of Us. Like I just played The Last of Us 2, where like The Last of Us 1 didn't need a sequel. It existed on its own. It was perfect as it was. But the sequel was so good, like it hit that bar and exceeded expectations. That's how I kind of look at Terminator 1 and 2. Terminator doesn't need a sequel. Terminator is a fantastic movie from start to finish. It is kind of genre bending. It's like sci-fi horror, like you said, is very like alien-esque in that sense. Does not need a sequel. But then they hit the sequel and they just knock it completely out of the park. So it's one of those few times, because I feel like we don't get that often. A lot of times people go to the well once too often with these sequels, but like this is one of those few ones where it's like, you did it better. How did you do it better?
Yeah. Well, sure. And I've heard a lot of people talk about T2 as being one of their favorite films, if not favorite action film of all time. So obviously my bar is really low for it. No, it's hard because you talk to people who grew up with these things, and it's kind of like me when I'm talking about like Disney movies and I go back to them and I'm like, yeah, maybe it isn't like by today's standard the same. Maybe also it's kind of hard. It's so hard to compare apples and oranges like that, because like animation, like hand drawn animation, like sometimes it looks amazing, sometimes you're like But with this sort of thing, you're like because you could, if you showed this to a modern young audience today who had no kind of inkling of what it was like in the 80s and all that stuff, they probably this wouldn't be transfixing to them because of the lack of the like the new age effects. They'd be like, what was like a throwback or something? Like no, this is like what wowed people like back in the day. But it was a stepping stone to get to where we are today. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate it, obviously, for that. There are a few funny things, or things that I really enjoyed about this one. First, I was just in Los Angeles recently. This is not supposed to be like a humble brag, but when he's prowling around, when Predator's prowling around sorry, Terminator. I want to call him Predator. The Terminator. Arnie, I'm thinking about you. Terminator's.
That's later.
Yeah, it's later. That's too right. When Terminator's walking around like the LA like neighborhoods, I was like, yeah, that seems like about right. Like he's kind of walking around. I was like, yep, I feel like I've seen these places, and I was like, they shot it. I think it was again because smaller budget, maybe by those standards, it wasn't as much, but that and there's some unintentionally hilarious deaths in this film. The two that come to mind are like the girl or the friend and her boyfriend who are back at Sarah Connor's apartment that they share. Yep. And like the girlfriend of the guy is like making all this food, and she loves her. I like her character is like she just loves her headphones so much.
Just
and
needs to listen to that Walkman. Whether it's making a sandwich, having sex, doesn't matter.
It doesn't
Walkman's
matter.
in.
Yeah, and it was like, and that part is kind of funny. But also, there's this one poor lady at the nightclub who basically is like a meat shield for Sarah Connor because she's like running and like just gets shot in the back, like falls on Sarah, and Sarah's like, oh my gosh, and like it's very. Very funny.
When Kyle dives behind the bar, there's like 3 people get blasted. It's like Jesus.
I love it because it's just like they're just having fun at this nightclub, like a party or whatever. And these 2 dudes with trench coats roll up.
Yeah.
And I like that the way they make Kyle say that like he had to wait to talk to Sarah. He's like, I didn't know which person it was going to be. And he's like, I had to wait to make contact with you before I saw that. But I love that his approach is like, I'm just going to follow you.
Yep.
I'm going to start following you maybe like a day after I show up, and I'm just going to get a shotgun and basically walk around and follow you, and then when someone else attacks you, I'm going to attack them. And I was like,
and because that's when they have that moment where he's explaining like what the Terminator is, and he's just like, that's why I had to wait. He's like, I don't know, like these things look so human now, I can't just assume. And so I think that, and then obviously just the running theme with the dogs, how the dogs sniff them out, and then you see at the end she's got her own German Shepherd, so like she's just starting to.
I like that.
Because those little things, like that's how I say, like in the second one, you see the toll that the first one has on her, but you start to see it right there where now she needs to travel with the gun. She needs to travel with this dog. And this is all because she's like, I just had this like otherworldly experience. And so you start thinking to yourself, like, how would I react in like this situation? Like, what would I do? And so I think that's the cool part, is because Sarah Connor is so human, but by the end of it, she's completely jaded, and now she's super paranoid about everything that's going on. Yeah. And it sets up for a huge character change in the second one. And you'll see it, but with this first one, when he's just like walking through, and you see him when this is early part with Kyle Reese, when he's like walking through like the department store, he's like trying to hide from the cops. How come the cops just never checked the photo booth? Like, wouldn't that be one of the first places you'd check for someone hiding? He just perfectly puts his shoes down. It's like, I can sneak out now. I'm sorry. Like, I know this is like way off topic because we're like at the end of the movie.
You got to get the Nike commercial, right?
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
They
like,
do it a few
Nike
times.
Definitely paid them to be in that movie. But I just thought it was so funny. It's like they wouldn't have checked like the curtain. Like,
no.
I digress. But because like I really like at the end of that movie, like you were talking about how it's that visceral image where, you know, it's the actual prop kind of like crawling after her, so it's not that, you know, knockoff CGI or anything.
Yeah, it looks great.
And it kind of leaves it just, that image sticks with you because, like you said, it's like the third death fake out. You think because she's just found out Kyle's dead, her leg's a mess, she's exhausted, and then that thing just sits up. It's got no legs and it's just crawling because all it knows is I have to kill Sarah Connor. And so I love when she gets out of it, and then just that last little line, "You're Terminator, fucker," and just hits the button. It's like, yeah.
I love how they have that censored in a lot of things they show it for. They're just like, "You're terminated," like, and they just like cut that. They're just like, it was the 80s, and there's even more swearing for some reason back then. Like, and nowadays where it's starting to come back. It's funny too, because when back talking about California, one of the first things I saw at the Paramount Studio Tour was a full prop of a Terminator T-800 holding 2 guns, and I was like, oh, that thing, like the design of it looks so cool, and I get why they don't like want to show that the whole time. It would have been way more expensive, a lot harder to do, but it really does look interesting because it's like
that reveal that was so awesome.
It's sweet to see him, and like I love that it's like it's not just like one hunk of metal. There's a bunch of moving parts, the red eyes, but the fact that they have still like human teeth or metal teeth or like whatever they tried to like kind of make it look like a human. Like it's got such an iconic look about it when you see it just walking around, and you're like, wow, that's like. that'll stick with you because you're like, oh, the red eyes and everything. It's simple in like the color scheme, but really complex when you actually start to look at the thing. You're like, wow, there's so much going on. I really appreciate that.
And it really did become like a symbol of the movie too. Like if you nowadays, if you see that skull, you know immediately, oh, it's Terminator. Like without, even if you've casually seen the movies or you just heard about it, you know that's Terminator.
Oh, totally. Exactly. Yeah. And I wanted that to be, and I think nowadays it would probably been an easier reveal when he comes out of the fire. Cause I thought like, what they do is like, he kind of gets blown up in a truck and then that's the first reveal. I kind of wanted it to like stand up and have it like melt off of it and like stand up and you'd be like, oh my gosh. And that's when they should do the T2 music almost even more so than they have this one like dun 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 dun. I'd be like,
I love the score. Oh my God.
Dude, yeah, it's great, man. It's good. I don't know. This is a good, straightforward hour and 47-minute action film. And you know what? I kind of appreciate that because like a lot of movies nowadays need to be 2.5 hours and you're like, why does it need to be
I will say the second one's like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something like that. I actually I'm gonna watch because I have it right here. Hold on. Nope.
Special cut.
There it is. Yeah, I got right here the good old there's Arnold in all his glory.
His hair.
This right here. Special edition DVD, which has like the director's cut that's literally like 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh. That's James Cameron. He's like, none of it went on the cutting room floor. I put it all back in.
It's all so good though. I prefer the director's cut. I'll be completely honest.
Dude, well, that's the same way I feel kind of about like Lord of the Rings. But then I tell people, I'm like, if you want to try to get into it the first time, watch the original.
Yeah,
and then if you really like it, and then, because like I hear purists who are like, no, you can only watch the extended ever. I was like, you're never gonna sell anybody on a 3-4 hour movie. So I was like, start with like the almost 3 hour ones and be like, do you like it? Do you want more of this? Because if not, I'm not gonna force you. Like you're not gonna appreciate it. You'll be like, this movie is forever.
Just do the original. I think you'll enjoy it though. Because I do think a lot of the things you had issues with in terms of special effects, a lot of them get rectified in the second one. There's still obviously like a little bit like, all right, well that's old, but for the most part. Because they still do a lot of the practical effects, still a lot of those car chases, a lot of like the practical fight scenes, but they just add like different little wrinkles, and it looks so much crisper too. It's wild to think it's only 7 years difference.
Well, I appreciate that.
That movie holds up.
I appreciate hearing that, and it's good. And the thing about this one that I want more of, and I know because I know she's cooler later on, I wanted more Sarah and less like Kyle, and I get that that's kind of the future. That's what happens, and I'm excited to see that because I think she's a much more interesting character. I also like how they develop her, where she kind of has like, it's just little things. She's like, she kind of is seeing a guy who like kind of blows her off for going out dancing on Friday night, and her friend's like, well, just because he has a Porsche doesn't mean he's like a guy you should be with. And instead of like sulking at home, which would have gotten her killed, mind you, she's like, I'm gonna go see a movie, and she's gonna go out by herself and just like go get dinner, go see a movie. And I was like, Sarah, you're great. I was like, you're not like destroyed, and you're not like, I'm not going out by I was like, in the 80s, she's like, yeah, man, I'm going out by myself. I don't care. I was like,
she was ready to go out. She's going out.
Independent.
Yeah, Sarah Connor is like one of my favorite characters, obviously in the series, but just in general, like especially in the second one, because like I said, you really see the toll that the events of the first one have, and then with her trying to be so protective of John because now she knows, I got to protect him, how that kind of plays, and like her relationship with John, how that comes into account. Oh man, like. I do have to ask you, were you shocked when Kyle Reese died?
I wasn't completely. I think I kind of had a feeling like it was going to happen in the way they kind of alluded to it. I was surprised in which he died because like the moment he looked like he just fell down some stairs, and I was like, I'm sure he'll be okay and he'll get like gut punched or something. And then I was like, he's dead. And I was like, what?
I know. I feel like the first time you watch it, like there's that little hope or that little second where you think that maybe he'll come back and like grab it from like crawling at Sarah. But I like how they didn't do that. And it was just like, nope, Sarah did it. Like she got away. She hit the button. She killed this thing. She terminated the Terminator.
Yeah, well, and they're zipping him up at the end when they like come to like the the paramedics and stuff, and she just says like, Kyle. And like the thing is, in that moment, the way she says it, it is this very like, I have no one left. her roommate and like friend and her boyfriend, who
her mother, by the way,
mother is dead. Like, yeah, because that's
super dead.
That's a whole thing. That's just like an insidious thing they don't even talk about. That like Terminator went to the cabin where apparently her family was, killed them all, and just like replicated her voice on the phone. And like even she can tell on the phone when they hang up. She's like, that sounded weird. But
yeah,
her roommate's boyfriend, who's kind of a creep, who like kisses Sarah like upon when he's a weird dude. All right,
he's just an 80s stereotype. Like he is an absolute 80s stereotype.
Yeah, but they're like
tennis shoes, high rise shorts, probably.
Yeah, and he's wearing like a Speedo in bed. It's very confusing. But like everybody she knows and cares about is pretty much dead, and like when she says like Kyle at the end like that, I was like, oh, that's kind of her being like, that's the only person who knew about kind of even any of this. All the cops I knew who were trying to protect me for the most part are all dead like besides the psychiatrist guy. She's like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? It's like,
oh yeah. And speaking of funny deaths, so not the police chief, because he went out, that was sad. Yeah. But like his little lieutenant, that guy, like he just like, chief, and then he goes, hey fucker, and then he just blasts.
Yeah, and just got
like, good job, dude.
I also liked how realistic it was that there's just like one dude who's just at his desk in his office just doing paperwork, and he just like kind of looks up and he just like Terminator just like walks in like boom boom, and the guy just gets thrown away. It's like the guy didn't have a gun, he didn't have anything. Oh, yeah. He's just sitting there and he's just like, huh? Like just Terminator's like, I'm done with this whole like nice guy thing. And I think I kind of wish they would have made. They show that his arm gets kind of messed up, and so that's why he retreats from one of the attacks that he does on them at first. But I was like, what are they going to do here? Like, Terminator's going to walk out of this car. There's like 10 cops, and Kyle and Sarah are there in the car. I was like, isn't he just going to walk up and shoot him? Because he'd just be like, I don't really like. I'm just going to walk up. But apparently, he was harmed enough that he had to slink away. And I was like, how does Arnold Schwarzenegger slink away? I was like, how does he get out? He just snuck out though. He's a sneaky boy. I was like, all right, that's fine. That's okay.
Well, I think too, because he didn't have his guns on him when he walked in the first time.
Sure.
So the guns were in the car. So he's like, all right, well, I'm just gonna fucking drive in. We'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, I meant like in the when he's chasing them. Is it did he not have anything in the car? He stole
no, which one?
Cop car. He stole a cop car from that one dude.
No, yeah. So he had the shotgun there. So now when he slinks away and like fixes his arm, fixes his eye, that when he comes back, that's when he goes to the police station.
Yes. Yep.
And so like he does the I'll be back and he drives the car in.
Yeah, I meant the one before that where he's just like the cops try to find him and they get arrested.
Yeah. I think that first time, like, I think like he just had probably just like whatever was in that cop car. I don't think he had his arsenal because as we saw, it was like under his mattress in this little. I do love. Did he like get a rental or did?
Yeah, that's
like, did he?
At first, I thought I was like, okay, between that window, which I didn't realize he was renting that place or whatever, and also a window in one of the cars that's rolled down just enough. I was like, there's a security problem in 1980s Los Angeles. I was like, everything's unlocked. Like you just see a place, you just walk in.
He walked right in.
I was like, oh, that's fine. I also thought like, they probably shouldn't have shown that he was so strong in the beginning because like, you know what would be an even better way than shooting Sarah Connor? Crushing her chest, like, which would be too brutal if he just like walked up and he's just like, I'm just gonna punch you.
I know, yeah, because the first people he encounters, he, like I said, he like rips the guy's heart out, basically, just rams his fist through his chest.
So good, dude. Yeah, it's just fun. It's fun for the whole family. No, I'm kidding. Don't
Terminator.
Don't let your kids watch it. Yeah,
it's funny that you mentioned that. I literally burnt out our Terminator 2 VHS when I was like 4 years old because I watched it so much.
I feel like a lot of people, like parents, let their kids watch that or like the Aliens franchise, or like they're too young because they're like, well, it's so fantastical. The kids aren't gonna necessarily.
Like my dad loves Terminator 2 just as much as I do. That's probably like, I don't care. This movie's great.
See, that's gonna be, if I ever have kids, it'll be like Lord of the Rings. My kids will be like, yeah, I know what a decapitation is. My dad and I have been talking since we were like 5. Like those orcs, like look at them get their heads lopped off. It's great. I'll be like, yes, I'm so proud. But all in all, again, as an action movie connoisseur of sorts, it's good to go back and see this stuff because I haven't gone through it all the way like this, and it's cool to see where this stuff starts and try to have an appreciation for it, even if obviously it's not going to hold up to today's standards. That's not fair to put it up to that. But I would say anybody who has not watched it, which I think I might be one of the last people, or someone who's just getting into action and they kind of want to like start, with like a group of them from like the late 70s, kind of the 80s and stuff, I would definitely say throw this one in there because that's going to be a segue into Terminator 2. obviously, which
For
is
sure.
what a lot of people want to check out.
And yeah, just go back and watch some 80s and 90s action movies because you'll find some type of joy in them. I guarantee it. They're quirky, they're ridiculous. They got like just puns all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's a good time. I've been doing that a lot more recently. I was actually watching Total Recall the other night. Great movie.
Oh, okay, nice. The one like franchise that sticks with me from that time period, weirdly, is like Indiana Jones, but because it's like really set in a different time and stuff, it doesn't really have any vibe that it ever was made at any specific era. It's just like, it's just a movie, and like you watch Raiders today, and you're like, when did they shoot this? And you're like, I don't, like 83, like you're like,
doesn't matter,
or whatever
it
it
works.
is. It's like, it's fine.
Same thing with Jaws. It's just they're on a beach.
Dude, like everybody go watch Jaws and just revel in the fact that there's so much city politics going on in it, because you're like, wait a sec, maybe the real enemy is the mayor. And
the mayor sucked.
Yeah, I was talking about that today because we were trying to discuss like best Steven Spielberg movies. And if I'm not mistaken, back in the past, what they had was it's like Amity 1 or Orca 1 or whatever it was, the boat they were on. And they took that actual boat from Jaws and they put it in the backlot tour. And Spielberg said he used to go on the backlot tour, like go back out there, not actually on the tram tour. And he'd just sit in the boat and he would think about Jaws and think about how hard it was and all this stuff. And then he's like, and then one day I came back and they just tore it. It was gone. They tore it down. It's like, oh my gosh. Like, he's like, this is like one of my, like almost maybe my magnum opus in a way. And this is like also this thing that's haunted me for so long. And it's just like, it's gone. Don't worry about it. Like, it's like, don't worry about Steven. Gotta go make Jurassic Park and also, oh my gosh, I can't think of it. Not Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan was very good too. Why can't I think of the name of it? Schindler's List. He was doing those. He was doing Jurassic Park editing for that and Schindler's List like almost simultaneously.
That's wild.
Dude, how do you do that? He's like, well, I got to go edit some dinosaurs tonight. You're like, dude, he just spent all day in World War II Holocaust. Yeah. Anyway,
it's a huge mood shift.
Yeah, he's like, okay, this is gonna be a fun time. What if Jurassic? Like, I try to think of what some of these films like Jurassic Park or some of the things made in the '90s, if they were pushed back into the '80s, like how different they would be. Because like with Terminator, you get that. You get kind of like, what if it was more '80s and then kind of early '90s, and then as it progresses in time, like it obviously is like one a decade or like one every 6 or 7 years. It seems like now we have 6 of them. Something like that.
Yeah, well, some of them don't count.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I told somebody today, and like you can everything like it's the businesses, right? They call it canon. I was like, if you love a thing, you can pick the one like film or the 2 films in a series that you love. Call that your own canon, and then everything else can be fan fiction.
With when Dark Fate came out, they were literally just like anything after 2 just hasn't happened. Like that. That's what it was. They're just like no.
I feel
so
like
they retconned the whole thing.
That's just everybody's doing it. Star Wars is doing it. Everybody's doing it. They're just like, hey, you know what? We don't really like some of the stuff we've made, so we're just gonna like whatever. It's fine. Just a few lines of dialogue in there, and they're like, it never happened.
Well, because one of the things was James Cameron wasn't on 3, Salvation, or Genesis, but he came back to produce this one, and then obviously he got Arnold back, got Linda back. So like he was like overseeing the story of Dark Fate. So that's why he was like, yeah, this is actually canon. So this is Dark Fate's like the sequel to the second one. James
Cameron's like, unless I'm involved, it's not Terminator. All right. If they make a Titanic sequel, it's not the same. No, I'm just kidding.
Because 3 is okay. It's an okay movie. Like I think by action movie standards, I think 3 is a fine movie.
Yeah.
But in terms of like putting it up with this series, it's not good. And then Salvation and Genesis are just trash.
Well, that was my 3. Weirdly, I think it was kind of more of my introduction to it because it came out when I was like old enough to watch this sort of thing. I remember watching it with my cousins, and one of the only big things I remember from it, and I thought it was so entertaining, and I still think it's pretty funny, is just like they're thinking, all right, how do we get Arnold Schwarzenegger in a cemetery holding a coffin full of guns and also shooting a gun? And like that image has stuck with me, and I'm like, that's a crazy, and he's just like one-arming a coffin and shooting with a gun, and you're like,
that one, what? And then like the crane, like that truck when it flips over, like that scene's amazing.
Yeah, there's always good stuff like in those types of movies. You just have to pick out the moments. You're
like I'm saying, like 3 it's a fine action movie. I think 3 by just traditional action movie standards is totally fine. But like when you're comparing it like plot wise against like the rest of the the real series, then it's like, yeah, that's kind of weak. But if you want to be entertained, then Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines definitely entertain you.
I respect that ending, though. Not many action films do like a hopeful slash like sad ending. It's like
they're just like, yeah, there's no preventing it. We're fucked.
Yeah, exactly. I love that because you like get in there, they're like in the bunker, and they're like, wait a second, and they're like, yeah, we never prevented like Judgment Day, and I was like, oh, very good twist. I was like,
great,
good job. But anyway, that's jumping over 2 completely, which I'm excited to get back to. Going and diving into 2 now because I've heard so many good things, and I've obviously seen clips and stuff over the years. And
you let me know the date and time you want to talk about 2, and I will be there, sir.
As long as Skynet doesn't come for my internet again. Yeah,
they're always listening. They're always listening.
I know it, Skynet. I know it. Anyway, that's Terminator. I hope people who've gotten to listen to this get to appreciate, Steve's perspective of just like being a big fan of it, and then also kind of more of a newcomer's perspective. Somewhere maybe you fall in the middle, maybe you fall completely to like the I love it, or maybe you're like, I've never checked it out. Maybe I should check it out. I say watch it. I recommend watching it like any action or comedy film. I think they do better like if you watch it with more people, so you can kind of like be like, oh, that was so sweet, like that kind of stuff, where you can laugh together, because this movie does have some funny moments in it. So I would recommend you check it out. That's kind of the new thing I'm doing, Steve. I'm doing recommendation or not recommendation, mostly recommendation, because I feel like I slap numbers on things and I'm like, oh man, I didn't make this thing. It did take me years to make, and I'm just like a 7, and it's like the people are like, oh man, okay, but I recommend you check it out. And I think Terminator 2 will probably be on there as well. I saw Salvation in theaters, but like Genesis, the trailer ruined the movie. Don't watch the trailers for these things, guys, if you want to go in surprise, because they're like, here's the twist, and you're like,
oh my god, man. Like, the trailer for Terminator 2 ruins the biggest twist of the entire movie. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know how much you know about T2, but just don't watch the trailer, because I remember I saw the original one and I was like, man, if I was, in 1991, like going into this, I would have been pissed, because it literally spoils the biggest twist in the entire movie.
Yep. Well, I think I know what it is, but at the same time, I also, as much as I love Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers is a huge spoiler twist in the trailer. And as a 12-year-old seeing the trailer, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Oh my gosh, he's not dead. And I was like, I would have like wept in the theater if I would have been like, he's back. Like in T2 would be the same. You'd be like, they're doing what? It'd be like, wait, this is not, I thought this was going to be like a horror. Like, what? Yeah. Like, you'd be like, oh, okay, this is a very different thing. And that's good, because things should evolve. I would have been like watching Aliens and going in and being like, I think there's going to be 2. And then you like see all of them and you're like, there's more than 2 aliens in the movie Alien.
Shit.
You're like, oh no. That's another one too. It's so funny to like hear those two get compared a lot. I've made the comparison earlier today, like Alien and Terminator, as far as like the first one kind of being more horror and the second one being more like action. And James Cameron obviously involved in the second one. It's just so fascinating to see these things kind of over time, the way they go. It's like, interesting. Yeah. And Predator, I guess too. Predator 2 is kind of like Terminator 1 in a sense, a little, at least setting wise. More like Los Angeles.
Like, you don't see the Predator until like the very end of the movie. It's
yeah,
like,
they're
you ugly motherfucker.
Yeah, good. It's poor Predator. I love the Predator's had a weird trip. All of these characters have had a weird trip. Terminator, Alien, you love them, but you also like see movies and you're like, what were they? Like, oh, come on, you're killing me. Like, Alien versus Predator, though. Watch with a group. Just watch it with a group, okay? That's all I'm saying. Terminator versus RoboCop, when? I think I've heard of, like, people doing the comparison. I just think that'd be a fun movie. Let's just do that movie. Would you watch that movie?
Yeah, Arnold, Peter Weller, that'd be great.
Yeah, okay. See,
how could you go wrong with that,
I heard someone say in our Twitch stream today that they were saying, like, what if they did a futuristic RoboCop, and it was Peter Weller, but he's like super old, it's like post-apocalyptic, and he was like falling apart, but he was still trying to hold up like Law and Order. Like he was just kind of like walking around, and he's kind of like, degraded.
So just like Logan RoboCop?
Logan RoboCop.
That's fantastic. Logo Cop. Yeah, I love it.
Logo Cop. And they're like, we released it only in black and white. And you're like, oh, okay. You're like, you can make it as R-rated as you want. The blood is just black. You're just like...
Yeah, it's I'd go see it. Honestly, like if they released like a grizzled veteran RoboCop movie, everyone would go see it. Like in a heartbeat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they just gotta stop. They keep doing those reboots. Just do a continuation, maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
It'd be fine. I think a lot of people would still appreciate it. Yeah,
there's a reason why Logan was such a good movie.
yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. I was just watching. Speaking of the GQ interviews, this is kind of off topic, but I was watching Hugh Jackman. I don't know if you saw this. He was talking to Anne Hathaway. And he was saying, he's like, yeah, we shot that scene at the very end of Logan a few different times, and we did it a few times where James Mangold was like, yeah, like just do whatever, like, like let it sink in. You've been doing this character for 19 years.
Yeah.
And he's like, I did a few takes where I was just like sobbing, and James kind of comes up to him afterwards. He's like, that was really great. Good for you. We're gonna do it again, and don't do any of that. And like, I was like, I can just picture Hugh Jackman being like, okay, like just like kind of holding it together as opposed to just being like, I'm gonna die, like Wolverine like means just so much.
It's like, do you know who Wolverine is? You think he would do that?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, he's gonna say Bub. He's gonna be like, I'm dying, Bub. No, that's probably not. But anyway, Hugh Jackman, he's great, isn't he? I love him. Why does it always come back to Hugh? I don't know why we always talk about. I always talk about this guy on the show. Hugh Jackman, you're amazing. Him and Keanu Reeves in the same. If you put him in the same movie, I don't know if there's enough money that I wouldn't pay for it. I'd be like,
you'd have. Well, at this point, you don't have to go to the movies anymore. You just watch it at home. So.
Yeah, they just come to us, which is kind of crazy. We just got to see if Tenet.
Yeah, they should just stop giving it a release date. Let's just stop with the release dates, guys.
It's
like, nothing's gonna release.
It's gonna save the movie industry though, because there's gonna be like people will run out and see it. They're gonna be like, I just want to see something.
They'll all get corona, and like 2% of them will die.
Exactly. I am sure Christopher Nolan has something set in place for that. I'm sure the movie's that good it just eliminates the virus when you watch it. You're like, oh my gosh, it's changed.
I would
my
hope
life.
so. I feel like even just like vaccines though, you could get somebody a movie that would cure all this illness, and like, I'm skeptical.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, I don't trust it. It still bums. I always say this, but it's like Black Widow and Mulan, they're just sitting somewhere on a server. It bums me out, man.
You know what though? Perfect time to catch up on TV, video games, movies, and hang out in your backyard.
Exactly. I was gonna say, and that's a perfect segue to moving into the things we have been killing time with, or as I like to call it, time killers. So Steve, what have you been killing time with?
I've been playing a lot of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I have a good group of friends that I've been playing this one with. It's actually like the most I think I've ever played Call of Duty. Like this is like the one Call of Duty game that's really stuck with me because I have like a solid crew where there's 4 of us, and so we just play a ton of Warzone. And so like whether it's 2, 3, or 4 of us, like we'll go in duos, trios, squads, whatever. We're having a great time. It's actually great because these are my friends from college, so it helps us like stay connected during all this because we don't get to see each other that often. So I think that's a lot of fun. And then I recently got back into Destiny 2 because I'm getting ready for the new DLC that's coming out. I think in September. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I love Destiny. As soon as I pick up those controllers and start doing those risky jumps out there in space,
risky jump time.
I just remember how smooth that game is. Like it's just such a good game. I got a solid little crew there that I have some friends that are playing with. I've actually been playing with Manny because he picked it up again. So
cool.
It's been a good time.
Manny.
And then great. For TV, I just finished watching Money Heist on Netflix. And I cannot recommend Money Heist enough. It was truly phenomenal. You have to watch it in Spanish with English subtitles because the English dubbing is absolute trash. And because because it was shot in Spain, so if you actually just like listen to them in their natural dialects, their performances are all so phenomenal. Like this is such a captivating show. I would almost find myself at times like I would forget to read the subtitles because I was just so glued to like I had no idea what the fuck they were saying, but I was so glued to like just like their faces, their expressions, like what was going on. And so there's 4 seasons of it, and I think all 4 seasons are great, but I think the first 2 seasons are truly phenomenal. Like I would put those 2 seasons up against like any of like my favorite television show seasons.
Cool.
It tells such a great story from start to finish. The characters are so captivating. Like each one has such a unique personality. They bring something fresh to the table. The way it's shot, like you're always kind of finding things out as it goes, where you think they're screwed, and all of a sudden you find out that was all in the plan. Man, Money Heist, so good. Can't recommend it enough. If you haven't watched it yet, go find it on Netflix. Make sure you watch it in Spanish with the subtitles.
Okay.
But that's pretty much it. I've just otherwise to kill time. I've just been kind of hanging out, doing a little golfing, going to the beach, trying to get outside when I can. How about you? What have you been killing time with?
Well, I wish I could say it was more interesting than what you said, but it isn't. I played Warzone for 1 week because it was my buddy Joe's birthday, and he is completely obsessed with it. I wish I liked it more. We played a lot of Plunder, because that's the kind of the mode they enjoy. I don't know. I wish I could say that I like it. It's stressful.
No, it's very stressful.
And it's not like I don't feel like I'm better friends with the people I play it with after. Maybe it just brings out the worst in me, or like I don't care enough where I'm just like because everybody, the problem is our team didn't really have like a lot of like sound strategy. There's two people kind of like to hang back, just collect money. And my buddy Joe, he just loves to he wants to get in there. He wants to fight people. And like, if you don't do that, if you don't have a unified vision in these types of games, you're screwed. Like, it doesn't matter how well you do, because no matter what, you're just going to get destroyed anyway. It's just like, my gosh. So I got to keep that in mind. But I tried it out for a week. It was fine. I get why people like it, but I was just like, that's all right. There's so much to consume. I feel like we're so spoiled for choice when it comes to these types of things.
It's honestly the only battle royale that I've ever really got interested in.
Yeah, totally. And we played like maybe a round or two of the actual battle royale itself, which I played a couple in the past. I was like, it's pretty much the same. I was like, as I expect. And there's so many battle royales, as you know, Steve.
There are. That's why I was stunned, because like I played Apex, played H1Z1. Like, they had very little staying power with me.
Yeah,
it really is just because like we actually do have a good time playing together, and like surprising, we got a good amount of wins. Like, we're not great by any means, but we got like me and one of my buddies both have like 23 wins, and then a couple of my other buddies, they have like 15 each. So
nice.
We're able to get the win here and there, so that makes us feel good,
Yeah, well, you probably have like tactics and like a unified vision though of like how to do things for the most part.
Yeah. We when we do play well, it's when we stick together. When we have bad rounds, it's when we stray from each other and we get a little greedy. We try to go after somebody and get outnumbered. Mm-hmm. You know how it goes.
Oh yeah, totally. Well, the only thing that I was able to do that was ever cool was like my 3 friends died, and then I got that king contract and I brought them all back in. I was like, hey, I did that.
Yeah,
we still lost, and I was like, okay, that was pretty cool. But I guess I just prefer games where it like forces you to fight and do the same thing, and that's why like Evolve and Monster Hunter have been like games in the past where I'm like, I love this, because it's like in Monster Hunter, it's like you got 15 minutes, you have to kill that big thing. You have to, and like everybody's like, we're all on the same page with that. Like in this game, it's like, what do you want to do? And it's like, I'm gonna go this way. And they're like, no, don't leave. And then they get killed, and you're like, it's tough, it's stressful. But if you have a team who's coordinated and knows what they're doing, of course, it's a fun way to enjoy time. But besides that, I've been working through all the Gears of War games. We've been streaming those. We're on Gears 5, so I played through all of them.
Very nice.
And I just beat Gears Tactics the other day. I don't know if I'm still going to do a video on it or whatever, but I'll say this much. If you like Gears of War, give it a shot. If you like XCOM strategy type games, give it a shot. The 3 bosses in the game are a horrible slog. The last boss took me like an hour and a half to beat. For a strategy game, that's a lot. It like weighs on your heart. But it's I love Gears, and I like the tactics. I like that tactics style genre stuff. Strategy games have gotten to me a little bit lately, because I've been playing that and Valkyria Chronicles 4, and I don't know what it is about turnstile-based games that are just so refreshingly different than like a first-person or third-person shooter where you're constantly doing stuff. These games are like, hey, do you want to think about what you're doing? And I'm like, I suppose. Like, and they're like, take as much time as you need. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll use a strategy then. And they're like, that's why it's called a strategy game. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's why they call it that.
Yeah, because like I've been working through Warcraft 3 Reforged, which I'm just kind of going through the campaign just kind of slowly. But that is not, it's a different type of strategy game where it's more of like make the units, make them strong, and then kind of chuck them at the enemy. A little bit. I'm sure there's Warcraft veterans out there like, what are you doing? That's stupid. But that one is much more fluid, and you got to kind of keep moving. With these games, it's like, all right, you look around the battlefield and shoot that guy if you want to. Like, okay. It is much more fast paced though than XCOM, which I appreciate. They give you a lot more to work with, which I love too. But yeah, that, and as far as shows and stuff, I've been watching the best Avengers cartoon show, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which everybody should watch. Nice. It's 2 seasons on Disney Plus. It's got everybody. It's got all the Avengers. It's got like X-Men, Fantastic Four. It just mixes everything in there, and in a cartoon show, that's just nice to see. And it looks so cool. Like it's got a very like comic book, really like bold, bright style that just it's good. So I'm kind of going through that because I've been working on a Marvel thing. So I've been doing that and watching Avengers Assemble, which is kind of the newer cartoon show they've done. I don't like it as much as Earth's Mightiest. Earth's Mightiest is still super good.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for somebody other than the DC streaming service to get me the Batman animated series. I just want to be able to stream that. Come on.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not part of the DC package.
It's not on HBO Max, unfortunately, because they have it on DC's own streaming service.
That's what it is. Yeah, I was gonna say, because I thought they were kind of merging some of that with HBO Max, because
it's so confusing, man. It's so confusing. I don't like the first month of HBO Max. They had like all the Batman movies except the Nolan movies, and now they have none of them. But they just put the Batman vs Superman extended edition. I actually kind of want to watch the extended edition because I've heard it's better than just like the original one. Honestly, like I think Batman vs Superman is okay. I think it's a solid movie. It has good ideas because I like that idea of Batman where he's like old, grizzled. He's been beaten down by this job. So because obviously it takes off of The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller. So naturally that right away is going to get my attention. I thought Batman vs Superman had a ton of good ideas, but I thought the execution was terrible. Yeah. Like we talked about this before, like your Lex Luthor thing where he just puts the Jolly Rancher in the guy's mouth. Like, what the hell is happening? Like, why is that in there?
It's so bad.
Anyway, that's another thing. But yeah, because I have like the first season of the Batman animated series on DVD, but I don't have the rest. And
dang. Well, eventually you can watch the Snyder cut of Justice League, which a lot of people are stoked about coming out to HBO Max eventually, I guess, or something.
I just don't have faith that movie was ever going to be good because you literally do not care about most of the cast.
Yeah, it's a tough sell. Well, it's just the problem is it's just such a game of catch up, and like you want it to be good. Like there are moments, there are things that are cool about DC's stuff that they've got going on. I just want them to figure it out because if they do well, it forces Marvel to keep doing well because I never want Marvel to be in like we can make anything. Like I don't want that to ever be the case. I don't think they would be, but I think the competition is good and I like Gal Gadot. I like Jason Momoa.
Because that was the thing is like I think that they had a lot of good ideas and there were some good pieces in place, and then there was just a bad communication between like the people up top and then like the creators. And obviously, maybe the Snyder Cut is amazing. Maybe it's a fantastic movie and it's like, oh, cool. Maybe if he had the chance to do this, then things would have been different.
Sure.
But I just don't have the faith because I don't think no matter how much editing and no matter how many reshoots this guy does, I don't think it's going to make me care about The Flash. It's not going to make me care about Cyborg. And honestly, it's not really going to make me care about Aquaman because the Aquaman movie has now come out and it's just like, it exists. That's the best thing I could probably say about the Aquaman movie.
You're not a fan, huh?
It's just, I mean, it's okay. Like, it's just like, all right. Like they just kind of, you could tell they were just like, all right, let's get a little wacky with it. And it's like,
yeah, they go crazy with that. There's a lot in that movie. That movie's like 2 or 3 movies put into one movie. It's like, whoa, James Wan is like, I'm gonna come in, I'm swing for the flipping fences. I'm like, hey, like, all right, you know,
like Wonder Woman's great. I think Ben Affleck was a good Bruce Wayne, good Batman. I thought he just kind of got the shit end of the stick because the Justice League shooting sounded miserable. Like especially because Snyder had to leave halfway through and then Joss Whedon takes over, and by all accounts, it sounds like Joss Whedon was terrible to work for. So I can imagine like that takes a toll on you because you have all of these expectations because it's a bunch of huge characters. So I think he gets the shit end of the stick on that one because I really did enjoy his Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too is like he had a lot of personal problems, and I don't understand how movie contracts work and stuff where it sounds like you can get signed on for these things, but you can still kind of get out of them potentially. Like I don't know if they can they could take it to court over it, but maybe he'd be like, you just can't, you're not going to physically make me go be like on a marionette and be like, yeah, I'm Bruce Wayne, I'm Batman. Like they're not going to make him do that. But yeah, I hope they figure it out because I think there's so much potential there. And I would be really excited to see that really take off in a fun way because for the love of everything, how am I supposed to get Deathstroke in anything? Because they show him at the end of Justice League. Okay, I'm sorry. I know.
I know.
Joe Manganiello.
He would have been a good one.
He's really into D&D really and stuff, so he would have been fully in. Like, he would have been like, I'm going. Anyway, Deathstroke, please. But maybe we'll get that Suicide Squad video game from Rocksteady. I really think that's coming, maybe. Then, that's fine. I'll take the video game.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'll take it. Anyway, let's move into the last segment of the show, which isn't about the DC universe, which I feel like every show should be. But we're just going to do community feedback and questions. We got a great one in here. This one comes in from Jason over on the J Strom, I should say, over on Twitter. Echo Critical, that's where you can find us. He says, for the podcast, James Cameron gave us Avatar as a showcase for amazing 3D, but now 3D has fallen out of favor. Will Avatar 2 be in 3D or something else? 4K high frame rate? Or will he bring back 3D? Steve?
I gotta say, I don't think 3D is just like... I don't think it just doesn't have the appeal anymore, because now we've seen it, and I feel like maybe somewhere down the line it could be a really cool concept. However, I just think VR is going to just take that place eventually once you get some real solid, obviously with Half-Life Alyx, everything that we've seen from that. Now you get some studios that are really figuring out what to do with VR. So I think that that's going to kind of take the place. I think that, we could probably see it more this 4K, super IMAX, because at this point, what are we going to get? 8K, 12K. So it's all going to keep getting better in terms of frame rate and picture. Because there was that movie that Will Smith did. Was it Gemini Man?
Yeah.
I think it was, where it was shot in 120 frames. Where they were basically you need to see this in a theater, because anything you watch it on otherwise won't be quick enough to pick up on all the little frames or whatever. So I think that there's a lot of cool things that could happen with Avatar, although it's just I feel are we getting them? When are they coming out?
I feel like they're for sure happening now, because he's been talking about it for so long. But now that Disney's acquired Fox, and now that Disney also not only has theme park rights to Avatar, this is such a great way to keep that portion of one of their parks so relevant for so long, is to be we're releasing 3 or 4 more movies, and every time those come out, it gets an uptick for the place that's already incredibly popular. So I think Disney will come in and be like, hey, here's a fun idea. Let's go. They'll be it's time to start cranking these out, because it sounded like it was going to be 2021, 2022, and then maybe it was 4 and 5. It was going to take a year off between. I don't know. It sounds like a lot.
I was stunned when he had so many planned. I was like, wow, I didn't know we could milk this for that long.
And I really hope that means that he has a through line, and it's not just different portions of, Pandora, or just he's it's just 4 or 5 different planets or something. I don't want it to be that. I hope there's something where you're okay, there's he has to tell the story over that amount of time, as opposed to
so you're looking for continuity. That's bold of you in 2020.
I know, I'm a crazy person. It's just I want there to, especially in a big franchise like that, but maybe there won't be anything. Maybe it'll be completely different groups each time. It sounds like this is the core cast. So I saw a picture recently. It's that group again, Zoe Saldana and stuff. It's oh, okay, cool. Sam Worthington, I think. But I want it to be that. But to answer Jason J. Strom's question, I don't know. I don't know if we'll see 3D come back. I think as a lover of theme parks, it always has felt kind of like a theme park area. So anytime they try to force you to have 3D glasses in a movie theater, I'm because usually a lot of the movies that you see that have 3D weren't made for 3D, unless it's a kid's movie where there's a lot of whoa, they're grabbing at the camera. It just has some depth to it. So I don't know. And also I get so nervous about high frame rates, because The Hobbit and stuff, I love Lord of the Rings, but I'd never want to see it above 24 frames per second, because I'm it starts to get, because the issue, we talked about this before, but high frame rate, it makes it look more PBS, because it looks really nice, but it makes all the props and everything look too realistic. And then you make a fantasy prop and you're I could tell that's fake. But with 24 frames per second, it can kind of hide things in a way that, or makes it seem more fantastical. And it's just it's just too much, man. Too many frames. 120 frames per second. The Gemini Man stuff, I was it's you've got to be kidding me. I was I get it. I know you want to push the boundaries, but I just don't. I'd rather see that in some sort of brand new property. Like Avatar was at the time, but Avatar was it's not one of the highest grossing films of all time. It doesn't need to do any sort of gimmick. It just needs to be Avatar 2, and just
for sure,
just be Avatar 2. There it is. On the screen.
Once it comes out, it's probably it's gonna break records just like the first one did. But I don't know. not a huge Avatar fan, to be quite honest.
Sure,
It's okay.
I hear you. It's funny because like that's I'm a big Disney guy, so that's a part that everybody was like, oh, we gotta go over to Avatar and stuff like that. Go see Pandora, and I'm like, it's fine. Go there at night. It's pretty cool. I wouldn't spend like 3 hours waiting in the line for any ride, but I wonder if it's going to be like diminishing returns, like on a YouTube video where someone's like, this is a 4-part series. And then you like watch it a year later and you see it's like 50,000 views. And then it's like 30,000 views. And then it's like 10,000 views. And you like see the numbers come down. So if you release an Avatar movie every year almost for like 4 or 5 years, that last movie, either it's going to be like Avengers where people are like, I gotta see how it ends, or they're going to be like, yeah, didn't we just have one last week? Like, be like, it's hard. It
really is.
It's like, you gotta, that's why the continuity, Steve, they gotta have it. Like I said, Marvel, like Endgame, if they just released Endgame as the 4th movie in the MCU, people have been like, all right, like, but like
now there's nothing to do.
Yeah, they're like, we built it up over like 20 movies in like 10 years, and you're like, I gotta see what happens. Like,
for sure.
Like, I'll never forget Seth Rogen coming out in the theater before Endgame started to talk as the voice of Pumbaa about Lion King, and I wanted to be like, dude. Like, as a trailer, I'm like, dude, you gotta stop. I was like, everybody in the theater's like waiting for Endgame to be on the screen. I'm like, just cut it. I'm like, get it, Disney, I love you, but get it out of here. I was like, we gotta go. Endgame. Like, people are on their phones, like spoilers, just screaming them from the back, But anyway, I hope, Jason, that answers your question. Especially in this day and age, too. I don't know. I think 3D is also kind of a tough sell. People are way more concerned about germs, even if it's in plastic bags and stuff. I don't know. It might be harder for people to be excited about going to a place and being handed some 3D goggles and being like, okay, put these on. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of 3D. You say you're not a big fan of 3D too, Steve?
Yeah, I never really got into it.
Yeah, it just seems kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's because we're gamers. I think about that too. Like, for people who don't like games, like if this is kind of their closest thing to getting into, gaming is 3D goggle technology. I don't know. Maybe VR seats eventually. I think the D-Box seats are a cooler substitute, but they're so expensive and they don't always work super well. So if you're ever in a motion seat, I saw Man of Steel that way.
Oh, Jesus.
I think, and maybe even Batman versus Superman. Man of Steel was cool, Steve, because, like, when he's fighting Zod at the end, like, when Superman's doing the punches, the chair moved with it, and I was like, oh, I'm Superman. And I was like, I'm punching.
That's pretty cool.
I was like, that was fun. There was one shot, though, of, like, a spaceship looking down, and it, like, tilted the seat, like, almost so you fell out of the chair. I'm like, hey. Like, I was like, please stop. I'm like, I don't need you to do that. I'm like, anyway. There you go. Thank you guys for writing in. I appreciate it. If you guys ever want to reach the show, all you need to do is tweet the hashtag Critical Podcast. You can tweet at our official account, which is at GoCritical, or you can tweet at me personally. I'm at JimmyGood013. But if they want to tweet at you, Steve, where can they find you?
I'm at +1 Bastek, and so it's just the words spelled out +1, and then my last name is Bastek.
That's
so
cool.
Go follow me there. I tweet here and there.
What's the origin of that last name? Like country
Polish.
Yeah,
okay. Polish, yeah. Cool. I'm half Polish, half French Canadian. I don't brag too much about the French Canadian part, but
that's okay.
Polish is great.
Yeah, that's cool though. I like your last name because it's very unique. I think, at least for me, maybe there's tons of Aztecs out there, but I don't know any others. The only one. As I was alluding to earlier, though, we're streaming on Twitch couple days a week, usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the afternoon, and there are various ways to support us. If you do want to check us out, we are on Spotify and stuff now. I'm trying to get all the podcasts up there, Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. They just told me it's on everything. It's taking a while to change all the videos into audios, and it's fun. I just like hire an intern, right?
Hey, good.
But we have a Patreon and stuff. But instead of supporting us this week, what I would recommend you do, what I ask that you do, please go check out +1 Players stuff. They've done a ton of stuff with us in the past, and they write articles. They have website, all this stuff. I have a website too, but we don't like write cool articles like you guys. You guys write like really interesting, like wonderful articles that I really enjoy.
Oh yeah, we definitely used to.
Yeah, well,
I haven't done anything in like 4 months, but it's still all there.
The world has it. Yeah, exactly. The world has it. And you know what? I find myself doing this where if I find a group I really like, I go back and find their old things like they've written, or more so like listen to a thing like a podcast. Like, oh, they talked about, The Last Jedi. I want to hear what they talk about, The Last Jedi or something. And it's like that stuff I think is fun to go back to. So please go check them out because they're great, and just let them know Jimmy sent you. Our hashtag this week, I always try to do a unique one, but I always usually forget. So we're going to do hashtag. Is hashtag Terminator too easy? Maybe. I don't know. We can make up our own one, Steve. Do you have any ideas?
Hashtag I'll be back.
Hashtag I'll be back. No
There you
apostrophe
go.
needed.
None.
Yeah, we'll just tweet at Arnold Schwarzenegger a lot. He'd be such a great guest.
Oh, he would be.
I'd be like, so what's it like chasing the ponies around the yard? And like, he would understand
years
it.
ago, you could like win. It was like a contest, and you could enter a chance to win just a day to hang out with Arnold and
Cool.
go ride in a tank with him. And if that's not the coolest fucking thing on the planet, I don't know what is. Because I would love to ride in a tank with Arnold Schwarzenegger for just like an hour.
The only thing I would want is to have Sylvester Stallone ride up on a horse with a bandana and try to attack the tank. And I'd be like,
Yeah,
okay.
great.
I'd be like, hey. They
Just get the whole Expendables cast, just the whole lot of them.
Dude, like, if you appreciate the 80s at all, and like, these movies aren't like the best, but the Expendables has moments in it where you're like, that's pretty fun.
Yeah, I love those movies because they're exactly what they're supposed to be.
I just want more Antonio Banderas in any film, and I think he's in 3 along with like Kelsey Grammer. Antonio Banderas is like he's clearly like a little bit older, but he's trying to be like I'm a young guy, I can do anything the young guys can do. I love him so much. Like he's got so much like vim and vigor. Antonio Banderas. Check out The Mask of Zorro, everybody. I watched it recently. It's great. Anyway, Steve, thank you so much for being on the show.
Course.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. It's been a blast as always.
Yes, well, we'll be back hopefully talking about Terminator 2 here soon, someday.
Oh, we'll be back. All right.
We'll be back. See, we did it. All right, perfect. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. And until next time, just remember to adapt and overcome. Bye-bye. Nice. We did it.
That was a good time.